Welcome in, everybody, to a new edition of the Reef podcast. I'm your host, Luis IPA, joined by the good old Nightmare, aka Kratos. How you doing, man?
I'm good, Sharky. How you been?
Oh man, I've been good. Look what we rocking over here, bro.
No, right?
We're finally rocking. We got a couple people here coming up, and I think everyone is excited with what we have signed up for them today. I mean, it's gonna be a special edition episode today. I want to thank the fellow moderators here, Nightmare Rising, as well as the co-host. He's actually a moderator here. Payaso Max being the new moderator of the Reef podcast, and all the amazing viewers that are listening all over the world. Guys, we got an amazing guest with us today. This guy would actually help you back in the 90s around Sega games and any help that you needed. Please welcome the good Mr. Tim here. How you doing, sir?
Mr. Tim, yes, hello. How are you?
Would you like to actually introduce yourself to the viewers here so they can actually know who you are?
Well, I am Tim, but I'm better known as SegaMaster Tim. And the reason for that is because I used to work for Sega back in the 90s as a games counselor. And when I say counselor, not necessarily one of those people that you would lie down on the couch and say, I've played too many video games today, help me out. No, my job was that I used to help kids through video games. So you used to call me up and say if you got stuck on Sonic the Hedgehog, I was the go-to guy if you needed help.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So that was my job. And it was a lot of fun. I did that for about 5 years between 1990 to 95.
Wow. Yeah. That's actually about because on the 90, I was actually only 2 years old when the 90s was.
Okay. Okay. Yes. So you probably wouldn't remember me at all. And by the way, I helped out people in Australia. Nobody in the US, to be honest.
I gotcha. That's still awesome though. Like the fact that you actually were able to help people that needed help and things. So I know you said to get right away with the questions. So my first really interesting question is like, what is the weirdest help you've gotten asked? Like, like one question, the question that somebody asked that you're like, oh my gosh, this is so silly. Like, why you asked this?
Yes, and in the many conversations I've had, it's always the guy that couldn't get his Mega Drive / Genesis out of the box.
Oh,
he couldn't get it out. Yeah, and I honestly, I thought I misheard his question. But no, he couldn't get it out, and I think it was because like when they put the boxes together, they use this industrial type glue to open it up. And I said, oh, okay, well, we'll just get a knife. He goes, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to ruin the box. And I said, well, you got to tear open the box in some way to get the unit out. And after some negotiating with him, he just cracked the shits and he hung up on me. So that was probably the weirdest one I ever got. Yeah. So here we go. Now there.
Hey, look, he's back.
Yeah.
He magically appeared.
Yes. Because it's like, I saw the camera and it had an X on it. Maybe I need to push that bloody thing. What happened? Anyway, Jesus Christ.
Oh, it's all hey, it's all good, man. I mean, it's all good. We try to have fun here. We try not to put pressure on our guests or anything. It's just like things like that. I mean, even us content creators, we face so much issues when we actually go live. And like, hey, by the way, your mic is off. I'm like, oh no, sorry.
Yeah.
So it's all like that. All right, Nightmare, what you got for him?
What was your favorite call that you got?
Look, I don't really have one, to be honest. I think if I really wanted to nut it down to one, It was also my most terrifying one too.
Hmm.
That was the very first call I took.
Oh boy.
Because it was my first job, the first job I got ever. And here you are working for your favorite company. It was your dream. It was my dream to get a job with Sega. So it would have to be the very first call I ever took. I can't say I remember it vividly, but I just remember the excitement of it all, but the terror of it all as well, because here I am. I never really properly used a computer before. I never really took a call as a job before either. But I was also very excited to help this kid out, you know. And I guaranteed it would have been a call about either Sonic or Alex Kidd in Miracle World. It would have been one of the two.
Oh wow.
So,
That's
yeah,
awesome. That's awesome though.
yeah,
So
yeah. So that.
so besides taking calls and everything like that, did you ever actually went to actually like have a conference call with like people that actually worked on the console itself, like Sega or anything?
Actually, no. But it was the first. I mean, we worked for Sega, so we were in the actual Sega building. But our only real call, if you want to call it that, or interaction with Sega of Japan was actually my first introduction to the very earliest days of the internet. Before anything we see nowadays, like the interface that we use using things like Google or even AOL back then. um, Even before that, it was just very basic text on the screen, and we would type "How are you?" and then we'd wait 5 minutes, and then we get a reply back. And in very broken English, who I don't even remember who it was we were talking to in Japan, but it was basically, "Good, yes, I am," because there was no such thing as Google Translate back
Oh
then.
no, there wasn't.
So yeah, that was my first introduction to the internet as well. But look, I spoke to an individual in Sega of Japan before I got a job with Sega. And her name was Judy Jete. I always called her Judy Jet. It was Jette. And if you really want to look up the name, her name comes up in credits in some form of assistance with developing games and sort of maybe the marketing as well. So you might see a name in Crazy Taxi as one.
Oh my goodness.
But yeah, we what I used to do was ring her up in the late 1980s and talk about how much I love Sega and the time difference and also the cost as well. I mean, calling from Australia to the US was something like I think it was something like 90 cents a minute. That thank God for the internet now where we can do this literally for free.
Yeah.
But it would cost so much. But the few brief conversations I had with her, she goes, "Oh, how's it going, Tim?" And we'd have these little conversations, but we would mainly communicate through mail. And we'd send each other little things and all that, and she'd tell me what was coming out on the Sega before anyone else knew, and yeah, it was really good. And I would have to say she was the one that helped me get a job with Sega here in Australia. Yeah.
So we do have a viewer here by the name of Pedal asking, like, what made you want to start working at Sega?
Jesus.
Yeah.
Well, why? So as a kid, I had a lot of problems with my health. I mean, this doesn't. I don't know if you can see that. That's my blood glucose monitor.
Mm-hmm.
It's sensor on my arm. I've got diabetes. I'm a type 1 diabetic. And as a teen, I had a lot of problems with it. I was always in and out of hospital. I've had about 7 comas. My heart stopped a few times. Yeah, and I had a lot of problems as a kid with it. So, I mean, you're sitting in hospital. What else is there better to do other than play video games?
Mm-hmm.
So my mum would bring in this 34 centimeter TV, and initially, I used to play a lot of the Atari 2600.
Oh man.
Um, yeah, that's how old I am. I
No,
am
the reason why
past my 50s.
the reason
Yeah.
why I say that is because my dad actually in his attic, he actually has a sealed Atari 600. Like he has not opened it.
Well,
So
well, yes, don't open it.
nope, he's like, I'm not opening that.
Yeah, wow. How's it got it? Anyway, I'll ask you later. Anyway, so yeah, through that, I just love playing video games because it broke up my boredom as I'm sitting with in hospital with IV drips in my arm and oxygen masks and whatever. So that broke up my boredom.
Mhm.
And when Sega came onto the scene, and I was absolutely hooked on their master system, um, I was getting to that age where I needed to try and find and do something because I had to drop out of year 10 in high school.
Mhm.
Or I finished year 11, but I passed exams with only 3 weeks of schooling, but they couldn't let me move on to year 12, my final year, because I didn't attend enough school at the time.
Mhm.
I was very cranky then about it, but I understand looking back now why that was the case.
Mhm.
And yeah, it was just a company I loved. It was just a company I loved, and I didn't know I could actually get a job with them until I saw on one of the boxes the helpline through all the to get through all the games of that, and I go, ah, maybe this is something for me. This is something I could do. But the thing was, is that where I lived and where Sega was, it was quite a fair distance. It was like a 10-hour drive up the highway
Mhm. Damn.
to get there. Yeah, so Australia's very big, and things aren't very close to each other around here. So yeah. So it was just my pure love for the company.
That's awesome.
Um, yeah.
All right, Nightmare, what you got?
Uh, what do you think? What would you say your favorite Sega game?
Hmm. God, and every podcast I've done, it usually changes. Um, I think it really does because there's so many great titles
Mhm.
that they released. I think for me it would have to be I'd have to say it was Golden Axe and Super Hang On. They were the two because I mean, young kids now, but I don't know if you ever recall, like back in our day, we always tried to perfect a port of an arcade game into the household. That's what we were that's what we were aiming for back in the day. Nowadays, it's all about open worlds, crazy graphics, great interaction with players and great storylines. But that wasn't the story back then. Back then, it was all about being able to get an arcade game, make it look exactly the same at home, and that's where Golden Axe
Hmm.
and Super Hang On were great ports from the arcade. Because as kids we'd spend all of our money going to these arcades and wanting to take these huge machines back home with us, you know.
Mhm.
So that was the dream. So I found those games probably the best games, you
Mhm.
know. But I mean, you can't go past Sonic, especially when you see Sonic. Imagine seeing Sonic for the first time. You put it on your little 34 centimeter TV, and there's this just burst of color coming through, and the sounds. It's just crazy. Yeah. So yeah, you can't go past Sonic. I'm more of an OG Sonic than all the other renditions that have come out
Yeah.
since the original. But
Sonic is almost like Mario, basically. Like, just keep having new ones every time. I'm like, man, you can't beat
yeah,
originals.
yeah. So you really can't. You really can't. So yeah, and I think a lot of people would agree with me because it's their first, it's an emotional connection
Hmm.
more than anything. You know, maybe the gameplay's got better with like Sonic 2 and all the other renditions of that, but it's that nostalgic feeling when you're still a little kid and you're there like, oh wow, you know. So
Man,
um
I was gonna say,
yeah.
you give an old console like Sega to a kid nowadays, they would not know how to beat a game. They'll be like, "Hey, how do you beat this? I don't know how to do
Oh,
this." Like they would.
oh, they
Oh,
will.
hold up a second. You can't say to any kid. My kid can play some Sega.
But I'm just saying,
Some kids can.
most of the kids nowadays are like, "Hey, I need a guide. I need a walkthrough. I don't know how to do this. What, you press this,
Oh
you press
yeah.
that." They want everything handed to them. Like like, "Hey, here's the game. It's easy." Like.
Yeah, there's it's not, but it's, I don't know, it's a matter of that they want. I think they just know that it's there. It's just there. There are so many. There's like YouTube. You can get all the walkthroughs. You got Twitch. Like here we are now, and there's people there that can tell you, showing everyone how they're playing the game. You
Hmm.
know, whereas back in our day, it was just good luck. You
Yeah.
know,
Not only
it
that,
was
but also like it was about like sitting in a couch, like next to your friend playing the game for hours.
yeah,
And nowadays, like
yeah,
everything is online. Like, hey, let me play with you online. And I'm being back then. You remember the dial-up
mm,
days, so dial-up was just a pain. Every
yeah.
every time I would have to play something like, hold on, let me connect to dial-up, and then you hear the welcome from AOL, all that stuff. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, yeah. Well, no, but that's just it. And with us, like there wasn't even the internet, because the only things that kids relied upon back then were three sources. So one was magazines.
Hmm.
So the magazines back then, like EGM, Electronic Gaming Monthly, it's just
Oh, I
a
remember
beautiful
that.
magazine. Yeah, but the nice thick magazines with beautiful colored pictures with crazy advertisements that will be very controversial in this day and age. Um, but you'd hope to God that your game was in that magazine or that edition. So it
Hmm.
was either that, schoolyard rumors.
Hmm.
Somebody at school said, "Oh yeah, I got past such and such by doing this and that," and depending where they were on the food chain, people would listen to them, and then they go home. Oh, it just wouldn't work, but it was just a rumor. Or that's where guys like us would step in and
Hmm.
help out people.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, that's what we used to do. Back then, it was just so hard. But I think that we 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 did, but we did use what we could use.
Hmm.
Think about it now. Like 20 years from now, we'll be saying, "Oh, we use this silly thing called Twitch."
Hmm.
It was so stupid. God knows what we'll be doing in 20 years' time. So
Exactly.
yeah.
So Fiddle here says that her kids have a Pandora's Box arcade game with 1,000 classic arcade games in it. I mean, back
Okay.
yeah,
Cool.
so back then, I mean, we didn't have those. It was just like, the games itself.
Yeah.
But now they have those the mini Super Nintendo, the mini Nintendo, all those things. It's insane.
Oh yeah,
We were lucky
yeah.
to get the plug and plays, man.
Yeah. So
To the right of me, I've got an arcade that's got like over 10, 20,000 arcade games, and I used to dream as a kid being able to have an arcade machine in my house, and here's now this thing that I bought with my poker money. It's just crazy.
all right, so here Max actually asked the question, did you ever get phone calls about how to speedrun a game?
Actually, no, that wasn't really the priority back then.
Hmm.
That's the funny thing. It's never really cared about how quickly you got through a game.
Mm-hmm.
In our jobs, it was important because what we did was that because we have to upskill ourselves. Because there's no point in trying to tell kids and lonely housewives how to get through video games if you haven't played the game itself. Now, we don't expect everyone to smash a game, in next to no time, but it's bloody helpful if you can. So, Sonic the Hedgehog, I cleared that in 8 hours, like literally overnight.
Mm-hmm.
And that was before I got the job.
Mm-hmm.
But I only smashed it because I was so hooked on the game. The only reason why there wasn't like some end goal. I've got to get it. I've got to beat everyone else. So we never got questions about speed running. It was just not there was just no rush.
Mm-hmm.
There was just no rush. Yeah.
But nowadays they have those people that actually do like fundraisers and they do speed running, which is amazing to see. It's like, man, how do they figure out all these things,
Yeah, and got their little timer and all that, and I sit there watching them do it. How do they
I
do
don't
that?
think any of us could do that. Not how we used to play.
Yes. More to the point, why do you want to do that? I mean, I had no desire. Because you think about it. Think about it. So even back then, you spend I don't know how much it is on a game, right? And the first thing you want to do is finish it as quickly as possible. It seems like a complete waste of money. If you want to go and waste like $90 on a game to complete it in a couple of hours, you might as well go down to Vegas and just blow your money on the pokies if you want to do that.
Right?
I can't understand it.
I remember leaving my Sega and my Nintendo consoles on for days at a time just to have the game paused because there was no save files.
No, yeah, no saving.
All I remember is writing down on a piece of paper like the passwords and everything back in the day.
Oh yeah,
those were
Super Hang On was notorious for that because there was also a story mode in the home game, and like you're building up your career and you earn all this prize money to get a better bike and all that, and the password wasn't like just a few characters long. It was like, from memory, it's like 32 characters long. And it wasn't just letters and numbers, but also lowercase letters and symbols as well. And so if you were out by one little thing, you're stuffed. You've lost all your memories. You didn't read it properly. It's just thank God that there's saving saving options these days.
Also, the 90s were also the days that you had to actually blow in the cartridge to make sure it works.
Well, we weren't actually supposed to do that, right?
Yeah, that's what we heard.
We did anyways, but we weren't supposed to.
We did it, but is there any truth to that matter? Does it actually work? Because I think it's I read somewhere the reason for it, the reason why it doesn't work the first time around. It's something about the electrodes or something like that, not all charging up properly. I think I heard it's something like that. So it had
Not being
absolutely
aligned
nothing
or
to
something.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah, it had nothing to do with blowing on the cart, but you blow on the cart anyway, just for the nostalgic reasons.
There's still people that do it, even though it's
Yeah.
been proven like it's going to destroy your game. We
Mm,
still do
No.
it.
No. I still walk in here and just pick off a random game off the shelf and just blow on the card. I'm not going to play it. I just blow on the card and then put it back up on the shelf just for the nostalgia.
All right, so Fiddle here has the question: did you ever get to access to new games coming out while you worked for Sega?
Oh, is the Pope Catholic? Yes. Absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
awesome.
Benefits for that.
Yeah. All right. So the way we got games was through ROMs. So so you get chips, and what you would have is like this little mini motherboard that you put the chips on, okay, and then you have some little switches. There's usually a sequence of 4 switches, and you have to click them in the right position, and then put the monstrosity of the board into either the Genesis or the Master System, or even the Game Gear. This huge contraption, and you would get the prototypes of the games that were being released, because that was another aspect of our job. We owned a magazine, and so we used to do reviews for games. So we had to have access to the games. So when the game came out, we'd have a review on it straight away. Now the game, we got access to all sorts of games, but a story I always like to recall is when we got our first eyes on Street Fighter 2. And this is in the height of, of Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat. And it was also the first time we got to see the 6-button controller as well. And I always say that no work got done that day. Absolutely none. No calls were taken. It was just me and the 3 others, playing this game, playing Zangief and whatnot. And it was just such a great port, because once again, the color, the sounds, it was just so good. And even people from other departments were coming in. Oh, that's Street Fighter! Oh my god! And, so yeah, we used to get our eyes on games before they were released. Also, some hardware, like we got to see the Sega Saturn before it was released as well.
Oh wow!
Yeah, got to see it in the boardroom myself. Yeah, we just got to see so many things before anyone else did, and we were just so lucky. We were just so lucky to be in such a position. It was such a niche job to have.
Right.
To see so much. Yeah, it was so
I think just like for working for a game company in general, I mean, must be like, such a fun joyride, because I mean, you get to see so many people working with the same thing you're doing, and
everyone has the same passion. I think what made our job different to everyone else, because everybody else in the office were either like accountants, marketing, doing all these other things to make a business run. But because we were in Australia, we didn't have any game developers. We were solely So the true gamers in the building were our SegaMasters.
Oh boy.
So to be sitting around other people that love video games was cool. Yeah, it was absolutely awesome. And for a kid from a small town, it was even better as well. Like, I come from a town which only had 3,500 people.
Oh wow.
and don't get me wrong, video gaming was big, but everyone only played like the Commodore 64.
Oh, I remember the
There were,
Commodore.
yeah, and so consoles were sort of like looked down upon because everybody that thought about a console straight away thought of an Atari 2600. So if you compare a Commodore to a 2600,
It's a big
Commodore's going
difference.
to win it. Yeah, but I went down the console path
Mhm.
when a Master System came out, and I thought, no, this is where gaming's going to go,
Mhm.
and everybody sort of sniggered at me, you know,
Mhm.
no buttons on it. I go, no, and what do you know? I was right. Everyone's using consoles
All
now,
I
so
all I remember is as a kid, like when my brother actually brought Mortal Kombat, like the very first one,
yeah,
and we would get in so much trouble playing that, like my parents, like like, oh my gosh, they're like hitting each other, they're bleeding. Why are you playing
oh
this?
no,
Yeah,
oh,
like
that's
the
terrible.
So
and
much violence.
and then my dad, because he was a gamer back then, he would just tell like my mom, like hey, relax. I mean, it's just a game. It's not like nothing like
Yeah.
it's not like they're gonna go do anything or anything with from that. And next
Oh
thing,
yes.
but my dad was one of those gamers that literally he made me play something. I don't know if you remember this game. It wasn't Sega, but it was Nintendo. It was called Pilot
Yeah.
Wings.
Oh yeah.
So he made me play the original Pilot Wings, and every time I would score a 99, not a 100, but a 99 scoring one level, he would reset my
Right.
game and say start over until I get 100.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, like literally, like he would not rest until I got 100 on each single one of them.
Geez, that's a different type of pressure from parenting because usually it would be, Tim, you can only play for an hour and then you have to do some chores.
Oh no, my dad was my dad would literally tell my mom, like hey, he's sick, he can't go to school, you can just go to work, I'll take care of him while he's sick.
Okay.
So my mom would go to work and everything, and then he'd be like, okay, coast is clear, let's practice some Pilot Wings.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. That's good. That's good. Yeah.
All right, so
No,
so Fiddle here says, do you stay up to date on current game consoles or not as much?
oh, impossible. It is impossible. I can't do it. It's just, adulting is hard. No, I try my best, and that's why us on Twitter and I see what other people are doing and all that. But um, I sort of think in a way I'm I'm happy that I can't keep across it as much as what a lot of people do.
Mhm.
Um, Usually, I just find that I don't want to get myself into a conversation that I know nothing about.
Mhm.
Okay, so that's one good thing. Um, but I'm happy. I'm happy for people to, keep it all going. But I just find that some people just, it's almost like console wars again.
Oh yeah,
Back
now.
between Sega and Nintendo,
Mhm.
and people are so critical these days
Mhm.
about games. Well, not saying that they weren't before, but because there's easy ways to um, demonstrate their criticism so easily without any accountability. They type something on Twitter, and there's no accountability. They just, oh, I think this game's shit, and they can say some pretty nasty things and that. So I'm sort of happy that I don't get myself involved with that. I'd rather just sit here in my little room with all my stuff around me and live a very peaceful life. But yeah, I can't really keep up with it just because of work. It makes it so hard. Yeah. So yeah, you got to balance things up.
Right.
You got to
I mean, basically, like
really.
the whole console wars is getting on my nerves because I mean, it's like, oh, Xbox is better, no, PlayStation is better. I'm like, dude, you guys have the same game.
Right.
How are you
Yeah,
basically saying that this one is better? Like, how is this better? yeah, I mean the hardware may be different, but I mean the game is just the game itself. But I mean it's just that
Yeah,
they fight over the most nonsense things nowadays that I basically give up
yeah,
on that. I'm like, stop arguing. Like, there's no
yeah.
reason
Well,
to argue here.
there's Nintendo fanboys out there as well,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and it almost seems like they haven't the. I don't know what their ages are, but I reckon they're still the same age as me, and they still haven't left the '90s in any way, you
Mm-hmm.
know. So I don't get it. I keep on saying like I'm just grateful for where gaming is now because we used to uh, get picked on if you play games too much. You
Mm-hmm.
know, so, "Oh, you're a nerd." Well, what is a nerd? A nerd is somebody that knows a lot of things,
Mm-hmm.
knows a lot about a lot of things. Okay, so it's not really a nerdy thing. It's a hobby. All
Mm-hmm.
right. Um, but nowadays, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry,
Mm-hmm.
and there's films being made about games like Last of Us and that. So there's almost like there's still a bit of pessimism about saying, "Oh, I like to play video games and all that."
Mm-hmm.
But I think people also see that there is a chance for these individuals to get a job in the industry if they choose to go down that path.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think it's a lot more accepted these days than what it was back in my time.
I mean,
You know,
look at the recent movie they made. They made a Mario movie, and a lot of people were a little
yeah,
scared about it. But then when they saw it, they're like, "Oh my goodness, this is like a tribute
yeah,
to the game
yeah,
itself."
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Did you see they
It is.
released the original Mario movie from back when we were growing up?
Oh yes, 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 and um, it was horrific. Uh,
It was.
the only way
Let's
to
be
describe
honest here.
it.
It was so horrible that you couldn't help but watch the train wreck that was that movie.
Yeah, but there was also a lot of things going on in the background that the directors didn't even know. Nobody liked the directors.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it was a train wreck.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think Sega was right to, just wait till a time
Mm-hmm.
that we had the tech to be able to put Sonic out there
Mm-hmm.
in the way that you see it now, and everyone loved it.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone loved it. I actually it's rather funny because when I saw the first, I don't usually go to the movies, but I had to go to the movies for this. And when I saw the Sega logo come up on the screen, I shed a little tear because I'm thinking, I'm like, I'm thinking how far long ago I was actually part of this. I was actually part of, the whole
Mm-hmm.
Sega Sonic craze back in the early '90s and that, and now here it is. It's like full circle.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't believe it, So all the kids and their parents are like, oh, I'm really excited. And here I am getting a little bit emotional about the whole bloody thing.
I mean, I mean, it's almost the same thing for me. Whenever I actually talks The Sims, which is like my favorite franchise. Every time I
Yeah,
see like the original Maxis logo or the EA logo, I'm like, oh my goodness, this is all my childhood. Basically, like this is what I
yeah,
actually grew up with.
yeah, yeah.
Playing
So
Legend of Zelda, you hear that original intro, you just can't help
yeah,
but get
yeah,
nostalgic.
yeah. It's wonderful. It's a wonderful feeling. But we need nostalgia
Mm-hmm. You always need
to keep
nostalgia.
the youth in us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's one thing I plan on doing. Like whenever I do have a kid with me in the future, I want to actually show him like the Sims, show him how Sims 1 was, then Sims 2, Sims 3,
Yeah.
and then be like, hey, now it's your turn to carry on the torch of the Sims franchise and keep
Yes.
keep collecting those
Yeah.
Sims because I plan on like, being a collector of that franchise for a long time.
Yeah. Good.
All
Good.
right. So I think we're actually getting ready for our funny question segments. So if
Oh,
this is actually where we actually ask you out of the ordinary random questions that did not have to do with Sega, just random,
okay.
like out of the blue.
Okay.
So night.
Okay. Hope I can answer them.
All right. So nightmare. I want you to go first, man.
All right, I know this is going to be weird with him being in Australia, but same question I have to ask everybody: camping in a tent or camping in like an RV or camper or something similar to
Oh, jeez. I think more in a tent.
That's
Yeah,
it.
because I grew up in the country, and I think being there in the wild with no creature comforts. I think that yeah, it's been a bloody long time since I've gone camping. I haven't done that since I was living up there in the country. So and that's what we did. We got in the tent, and that was it. You know,
Mm.
and nothing like waking up and you smell of smoke. All right, you're trying to fire up the billy to have a bloody cup of coffee and that. So
that. Oh,
yeah, it is a struggle, but I think
Don't forget the
yeah,
mosquito
that sort of
bites.
yeah, but you've got what
you
got
deal with it.
what do you call it? Okay, that's all right. Yeah, mosquito bites. Well, it depends what time of the year you're going out camping, you know. So yeah. No, I'm all for the tent. I like the tent. Yeah,
Okay. What's your next question, Nightmare?
All right, so donuts or bagels in the morning?
Ooh,
donuts.
donuts.
That's
Ooh,
not
what
even
flavor
yeah.
donuts? That's the question.
No, well, we do have Krispy Kreme over here, so I'm just an original glazed
Mm-hmm.
sort of person. And I know I'm a diabetic. But if I ever
No, for
if I
donut man,
do
you
ever
can't pass them up.
and I don't even have sweets. I'm not a sweet tooth, but oh geez, give me an original glazed, mate. Go that any day. Yeah, so gotta go with that. Bagel is just it's too filling.
Mm-hmm.
It's too filling, and it's funny because there's almost the same amount of carbohydrates in a bagel than what there is in a Krispy Kreme original glaze.
Mm-hmm.
That's the scary thing about it. So,
Mm.
um, sorry, that's a diabetic coming out. I've got to count my carbs
Oh
and
no,
all
you're good.
that sort of
I
thing.
get it.
All right. So,
Yeah.
do you prefer pineapples on pizza or no?
Nah. As I said, like I'm a savory type person, not a sweet tooth.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Yeah, I can understand why some people might want it.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to contrast that, because now the foodie's coming out of me. If you want to contrast that with the like, it's like Thai food. You know, you contrast sweet with sour and saltiness. You're trying to get that
Mhm.
balance of it. I can understand that, but I'm more of a savory person.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
All
give me
right.
give me a margarita. I'm happy with that.
Mm-hmm. All right. Fiddle here says, "What's your favorite meal to eat?"
Mm. That's a really tough question
Well, foodies
because I
here.
love cooking. Oh, okay. My favorite food.
Like everyone's waiting. Like, huh? What
I
is?
had I had Wagyu burgers last night. That was all right. Uh, you know, it would have to be a toss up between Korean and Japanese.
Ooh.
Really toss up between those two. There's I love uni.
Mm-hmm.
That's sea urchin. That's beautiful. Um, and I've been lucky enough to have some of the best food experiences
Mm-hmm. I'm actually
around the world.
I'm actually from
Mm.
Peru, so we get a lot of good seafood out there.
Oh,
Yeah, man.
oh, mate, yeah,
we got ceviche, we got all kind of stuff, man. It's
yeah. Oh, ceviche. Oh, God, I love that. Yeah, it's really hard to say, but I would, if I had a choice, I'd go Japanese, Korean.
okay.
No question,
Like any
no
specific,
question.
like a regular or like sushi or anything like that.
Um, I'd go sashimi.
Ooh, sashimi is where it's
Yeah,
at. Yeah, that's a good one.
yeah, yeah. Nice raw fish.
All right. So my next question I have here is invisible or be able to breathe underwater.
Hmm, okay. I don't think it. No, brave underwater. I don't like sneaking around. I'd rather.
Well, I mean, you
I
wouldn't
just
really be sneaking around, just nobody'd see you.
well, if people knew that you were able to be invisible, they'd be always looking around, worried that you were there in the room, wouldn't they? So there'd be a lot of mistrust towards you. So I would rather breathe underwater, so there'd be no distrust towards me.
Me, I would like that as well because I would like to explore the remains of the Titanic before it actually goes all the way down to the deeper parts. I'm not big.
See, I'm the
Okay.
one that would want to be invisible just for the fact of nobody would ever know.
So
It messes with people so much.
So we do have a follow
Oh,
up to that that superpower question. Fiddle says, if you could have any superpower, what would it be besides invisible or breathe underwater?
oh, mate, if it was anything, um, I would like to heal people.
Heal people. That's awesome.
Yeah, heal. Yeah, and it's mainly because of what I go through.
Mhm.
So
So be able to
yeah,
go like
and
this and be like, "Hey, I healed you."
yeah. Like if you got any medical condition, I'd heal you from that problem.
It's almost like
Yeah, because
it's almost like you're ET from that show, and like you just go like this, and they're like, "Okay, you're." But all right.
no, yeah, that's what I would
Mhm.
want. Yeah,
All right.
yeah,
That was some awesome questions. So, guys,
yeah.
we're actually about to wrap up the podcast here. We're actually gonna ask here Tim if he has anybody that he wants to give a shout out to. So go ahead, Tim. Whoever you want to give a shout out to,
I want to
everyone.
thank God. No, I just, I just want to say, well, because people don't usually see me on Twitter so much
Mhm.
nowadays. So I just want to say hi to everyone there. Yes, I am still alive. I don't do as much as what I used to do before, but I hope you're all doing well and taking care of yourselves. And yeah, that's all I've really got to say, really. Yeah, no particular shout outs, just
Well,
bye.
on behalf of me and Nightmare and the community here, we want to thank you for taking the time to be here as our guest, and we hope to actually have you maybe in a future episode sometime soon. I mean,
Absolutely.
for a
Yeah.
for a
No
part
worries.
two. And
Yeah.
what me and my co-host here are gonna do is we're gonna try to mail you an actual coffee mug of the Reef podcast as a thank you for joining us.
Cool. Cool. And
Yeah.
remember, it goes back in time. So you're sending things back in time, not
Yeah.
forward.
All right, guys. Well, I appreciate y'all. And just so you guys know, our next podcast that we have is actually going to be with a sound producer for the original Sims franchise. So that's going to be really interesting to see. But until then, everybody, hope you guys have a good evening. See y'all next time, guys.
Bye.
As always, today's episode of the Reef podcast was streamed live on Twitch. If you could not make it to the live stream of the podcast, you can always listen to it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and iHeart Radio. Thanks for listening. See you next time.